appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the Caribbean drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys? Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the latest edition of Views on the News. As you can see, we have stalwart panelist Guy from Manchester. Welcome, Guy. How the devil are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Yeah, bearing up. Thank you.
Good man. Thank you for coming. So, item number one in the news tonight is more than 280 Nigerian school pupils were abducted in the northwestern town of Kuriga. They were in the assembly ground around 8:30 in the morning when dozens of gunmen on motorcycles rode through the school. And the students, aged between 8 and 15, were taken away along with a teacher. These kidnap gangs are from the Boko Haram branch of the Islam, the IS. I don't know whether they're affiliated or what, but they're Muslim terrorists. So, Guy, what do you think of that? It's not new, is it?
It's not new. It's happened before. And the crazy thing is that Boko Haram means books are forbidden, and that it's all about forbidding Western education, Western science, technology. And there they are. They roll up on motorcycles carrying Kalashnikovs, which are the product of, Western technology and, science. So they are a bit rather confused, and they're also very dangerous because we know what they do now is they abuse these people. They marry girls off who are underage against their will. And the boys, they probably try and make them into little terrorists in their own right. So it's, it keeps happening. And the Nigerians need to sort these people out. But I suppose, what can they do? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's not made a lot of progress in recent years towards an outcome that we would approve of. In fact, this particular abduction, mass abduction, was only a few days after an attempt to kidnap dozens of women and children who were collecting firewood. So it's ongoing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, anybody who runs a school in this part of Nigeria, in fact, the whole of the northern part of Nigeria, needs to really have some quite strong security arrangements, and I don't know how this can happen, but
yes, indeed,
And
so,
I mean, we've had an interesting discussion recently, in the UK with Rishi Sunak and other government ministers, rather muddying the distinction between Islamist terrorists and the vast majority of Islamic people in the UK. And I think it's worth making that distinction, even though the government seems to have lost their head on this.
Yes.
Most Muslims are not like this.
No.
But there is, sadly, some very antisocial and dangerous ones who are. And and the sad thing is that they do find support and succor for their activities in some of the Islamic texts.
Exactly. Yes. Not only that, but the trouble is the moderates, and you're right, there's a majority of moderates, thank heaven, but their very membership of the same religion gives credibility to these extremists.
Yeah. It's also very worrying because at some stage, they do sympathize. Many Muslims do sympathize with some extreme things that happen. And this is another problem that for our society, we need to make progress on sort of integrating Muslims so that we don't have people, for instance, in large numbers supporting the stoning of gays and things like this. You know,
or perhaps,
yeah,
or perhaps even supporting Palestine.
Well, I support Palestine. I mean, I do think the Israelis have gone overboard here. It's disproportionate.
Absolutely,
but,
absolutely. But the trouble is that people who support the Palestinian situation in Gaza are mistakenly, perhaps, represented as supporting Hamas, which also can perpetrates atrocities on the Israelis. So
yeah, it's very complicated. It's very complicated. I mean, that I mean, Hamas is deemed a terrorist group, but many people see them as a resistance movement. And
yes.
The French Maquis did at times engage in some activities which would now be called terrorists. And
yes.
The Germans saw it that way. So it's hard to kind of get through all this minefield. But one thing is obvious is that we need a peace, and it'll have to come sooner or later.
Yes,
unless it's a really good peace, which gives the just entitlement to everybody who needs their rights respected. It will just be back in another war in 10 or 15 years.
Exactly. It's a cycle, isn't it? A cyclical affair going on. Somebody, one side gives a grievance to another side who seek retribution, and then A goes back to B. So you're absolutely right. And the thing is that even in countries that are not in the Middle East, or not in the Near East, I should say, are getting dragged into this. I mean, take a look at this fellow here in London who is giving his opinion in the form of a finger to a pro-Palestinian march. Take a look at this. Look at that. That guy is an elderly.
But he's exercising his right of free speech in a physical form.
He is, yes, indeed. Yes.
And so are the demonstrators. I mean, in a sense, it's healthy, but in another sense, one would prefer not. But anyway.
Yeah, free gestures. Yes.
Freedom of gesture. That's the one.
Yes. So the thing is, he's obviously what you might call an English patriot, and he's fed up. He's had enough. I mean, there's how many marches have there been in London now? It's been every weekend for most of this year, hasn't it?
Yes, but that's because the government aren't listening. I think a majority of the people in this country do want a ceasefire. So why is the government being so mealy-mouthed about it, and the Labour Party? I've genuinely find that hard to understand. I mean, they are now calling for a ceasefire, but they just want a temporary ceasefire. We don't want a temporary ceasefire. We want this thing settled once and for all, I think. And that can only be done if the Palestinians are given their rights and their land back and their freedom back, one way or another. Can the Israelis take that risk? Can they learn to live together is the question, and it doesn't look very hopeful, does it?
No, it doesn't. Not at all. No, and not even since the end of the British. What was it called? The British effort over Palestine back at about 70 years ago. What was it called? The British. Control.
Mandate.
That's it. The mandate. over Palestine. Thank you. But even if you go back before then, 2,000 years back, they've never got on very well.
Well, I mean, it does worry me that an outfit, and we can come to this later as well, that a society that says God gave us this land 2,000 years ago, therefore we are entitled to it now.
Yeah,
I'm afraid that doesn't work with me.
No,
you know?
No.
Yeah.
Chosen people. We don't like chosen people.
No. Well, I mean, it's a myth anyway, and
yes,
it's an excuse for imperialism and colonialism.
Yes, indeed. So moving on to again London, and again really this Near Eastern dispute, because it's spilling over, isn't it, into the European and the American capital cities. And I'm going to play you another video. This is a Jew, a London Jew, who, well, just take a look at what he experienced in London. I think he was at Speaker's Corner wishing to, express his free thoughts, and he was nearly attacked. Take a look.
Yesterday I was attacked by a mob of anti-Semites. They spat on me, kicked me, pushed me, and tried to beat me with sticks.
Am I with you with this?
The violence was instigated by Ali Dawa, who incited the mob to attack.
I'm never going to live. The killing
You
of
condemn
66 kids.
Ali, what is this?
Huh?
What is this?
What is that?
Look at you, look at you, look at you.
I'm not going to do anything. It's a bait.
Not a religious person.
You're Zionist scum. That's what you are. You're Zionist scum. Hey, this ain't Israel. This ain't Israel.
Ali, get up.
This ain't Israel. This ain't Israel. This ain't Israel. This ain't Israel, bro. This ain't Israel, bro.
I'm Israel. Hi. I'm Israel.
What grieves me is we've made, over the last, say, 500 years, a tolerant society where it's been possible to express our thoughts, even if they've been controversial, at places like Speaker's Corner, and you could see there the Hyde Park in the background. And what's happened is globalization, and these people have come. They've come to this country because they like the society that we've built here over the last 500 years. It's been liberal, it's been tolerant, it's been well controlled, so that you can say things even if they aren't very popular. And so what they've done is they've come here, but they've brought their antagonisms with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite follow that, because to begin with, we haven't been sweet and light and happy and free all that much over the last 500 years. There's been a lot of struggle and bitterness and battles. But I agree that it's really bad news if people cannot stand up at Speaker's Corner and speak freely. That's the whole point of Speaker's Corner. And of course, a few years back, there was a young lady called Ayun Hatun Tosh, whom you may have heard of. I mean, who is the only little woman, very bravely got up and started talking about some very interesting research about the origins of Islam, and about the fact that, the Muslims say that there's only one Quran. Well, she's got 30 copies, or more than 30 now, of different versions of the Quran. And Muslims are horrified when they hear that, and they think that she must be some sort of devil or something. But that's the fact. That's well known now, and they're on sale openly around the world. The 30 different editions. There are only minor differences between them, but they are different editions. This is what's worrying me. And I think what is needed at Speaker's Corner is a much clearer police presence protecting people who have unwelcome and minority ideas. And of course the government goes on about how it's a no-go zone for Jews in central London during these marches. That is not true, because there are plenty of Jews who actually join the march.
On the marches, yes, indeed. Yeah.
So I don't think that's true. I mean, obviously, if you're a very obvious Orthodox or Haredi Jew, you might get unwelcome attention. But that's all wrong as well, because the Haredi Jews in this country are the ones who disagree with Israel. That's why they're not there. They're here. They're non-Zionist Jews. Almost by definition, any Jew that's not in Israel is likely to be in disagreement with Zionism. So
absolutely. Otherwise, they would have gone back, wouldn't they?
Well, they would have gone to, Well, So it is bizarre, this whole business, really. I mean, it would be lovely if Muslims cottoned onto that, and when they saw a Haredi Jew, they would welcome him and say, "Well done, you're not in Israel. You're here. You're our brother." You know. And there's many, Well, anyway,
it's they want simplicity, and this is too nuanced, isn't it? For them to understand. But the thing is that quite a lot of people have learned to love this country and come here because of the sort of 1950s view of what it's like. And
it's not like that now.
No. But one of the reasons it's not like that is because they have brought their personal grievances and disputes to our country. Some of them, at least. I'm not. It's dangerous to generalize.
We do live in a completely different society now. I mean, I remember when I was a young man with a new bank account, I could actually carry around a checkbook and pay for things by check, and the check was honored and accepted.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Without a bank card, I mean,
Yes.
Afterwards,
We've seen some changes in our lifetimes. So staying with the UK and history, the Church of England has they've come to accept that they caused damage historically with their connection to slavery, and so they have earmarked an investment fund to help repair this damage. Now, I'm dubious about the ability of anyone today having the capability of altering the past.
I mean, this is a difficult one, because I feel as if the church and the West are getting into a real guilt trip about this. When it's the wrong way around, because the reality is that every society engaged in slavery up until the time it was abolished by the UK and other Western countries. I think
William Wilberforce. Yes.
And I mean, in particular, the Islamic world, for instance, had a much bigger and longer lasting trade in black African slaves going on for centuries. And the interesting thing is that most of them were killed, which is why there are very few black people in Arabic countries. So, it's. I mean, having said all that, I mean, I've got to take my hat off to the church. It's a brave thing.
Well, yes, it is.
I think it's going to be symbolic, because, as you rightly say, we didn't engage in the slave trade, and neither did people who were going to get the money engage, or, were the victims. So it's got to be symbolic. It's got, it cannot be anything other than that. It cannot actually right any wrongs. They've been done and dusted a long time ago.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I'm not guilty for the activities of my ancestors, so I don't see how we can accept that responsibility. But the church has obviously done that, and there is a cause for grievance. There has been horrible things done in the past, but
yeah, absolutely.
can £100 million be compensation? It seems to me that it's likely to open a floodgate.
Well, I mean, lots of other people have already done something. I mean, various prominent British families with direct links and to, you know, slave trade by virtue of what they've inherited have done it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's a really good thing to do. But it worries me that, you know, we're accepting all this blame and there's been no discussion and no clarification about the reality of slavery all around the world. And I've got to say, you know, a lot of my ancestors were Irish, and they were not, you know, they were the ones that were in Ireland mostly, getting the shit beaten out of them by the UK.
They suffered too. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
However, it's not as simple as that, because they then went to Australia, and at least one of my relatives had a plantation or a ranch in the outback at the time when the Aboriginals were still being cleared off the land. So he's responsible for that, you know, or is my family responsible for what he did? You know, I mean, that's really bad news.
Well, I think as a general principle, nobody can be responsible for the deeds of anybody else, which makes the idea of dying for our sins.
Yes, I was just thinking, nonsensical.
It's ridiculous. Yes,
it doesn't work. Yeah, and how can Jesus Christ dying actually affect our sinful nature?
Yes.
Well, you know, it doesn't work. There's no mechanism there that could possibly apply.
No, there isn't. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So the church led by, this is the Anglican Church led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has welcomed the report. The report is actually from the Church Commissioners Charity. They're the ones who have said that we should do reparation for the historic links to slavery, and that it's not enough to offer 100 million, and that they want a target of 100 billion. But Justin,
1 billion was
sorry. My apologies. I misread the number. 1 billion. That's right. And but Justin Welby has said this is the beginning of a multi-generational response to the appalling evil of slavery. Well, when does it end? I mean, and when did it start? I mean, where do you put boundaries on this responsibility?
I mean, maybe we should be putting in a claim against the Italians because the Romans took slaves from the UK. And they did it for centuries.
Yes, indeed.
You know, and what about the Slavs? They're even called Slavs because they used to be used as slaves by the Ottomans and others.
Yes.
You know, and what about the African chiefs who sold their surplus population to the slave traders on the coast? Are they contributing to this?
Is anybody scrupulously clean of this guilt?
Yeah, no. The reality is we've all experienced this in our histories, and you know, going back far enough. Everybody probably on earth is descended A from slaves and B from slavers.
Yes.
You know, that's the reality. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, allegedly, well, I can't remember his name, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I was going to make another amusing point, but it'll come to me maybe.
Okay, right. Meanwhile, let's take a look at New Zealand, which doesn't often feature in the global atheist news. But on this occasion, the top Catholic, Cardinal John Dew, has lost a long-running fight in the Supreme Court to suppress historic sexual abuse allegations against him.
Well, I should damn well hope so.
Yes, yes.
Why was he resisting it? Well, we can guess.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that out. I didn't know about that. But then, you know, it's so rife in the Catholic Church. Interestingly enough, next Sunday it is in Manchester, the National Secular Society are holding their annual Bradlaugh lecture.
Yes, yes.
And this time it's about abuse by religious bodies.
Yes, yes.
And there's going to be several people on the panel. So maybe they'll mention this one, because I haven't heard that one.
Right. So Bradlaugh, I think, is the original, the
MP.
Yeah, but his the relevance to this is that he started the Freethinker. Is that right?
Oh, I think he did. Yes. I mean, he was an amazing pioneer back in the 18th century.
Yes. And there's a statue. There's a statue to him, isn't there?
There should be plenty. I mean, I don't know where it is. I mean, obviously, we also have in Manchester the Holyoke lecture, another 19th century hero. That's run by the Humanist UK.
Yeah. So Charles Bradlaugh, statue, Victorian politician, atheist activist. Let me just check where his statue is. It's in Northampton. There you go.
All right. Yes, that he was MP for Northampton, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And they kept re-electing him, even though he wasn't allowed to take his seat because he wouldn't swear an oath to the God and the Queen or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like him even more.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah. So, okay, let's look at the next item of news, which is from Greece, where you may remember, if you watched the Atheist News last week, or maybe it was a week earlier, the Greek Parliament recently voted to allow same-sex civil marriage.
Yeah.
Okay. And that, of course, has had a backlash.
Yeah.
Because the Orthodox Church have been protesting against this innovation, and they have accused the lawmakers, some of the actual politicians, of committing the deepest spiritual and moral error in voting for this law, because, of course, it doesn't fit with the Orthodox Church of Greece's doctrine.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, from my point of view, and I think from our point of view, the church has committed a secular crime. That is to say, try to influence the democratic wishes by reference to their minority or their religious beliefs. You know,
Yes.
I don't think that's legitimate. It would be the same in this country, and this is a problem, when Muslims say, no, we have our own Sharia courts and we're going to, you know, or we want everyone to have halal meat. What they're doing is imposing their, you know, their religious practices on everybody else. That is not acceptable. This is not acceptable in Greece, and I think the church authorities should be hauled up before the Greek Parliament and dealt with for contempt of Parliament or something. So something needs to happen so that the religious bodies start behaving themselves and
that's right.
Trying to impose themselves on everybody else.
They should be following human laws, not the laws of a mythical thing up there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite. Yeah. So I hope the Greek politicians deal with that one.
Definitely. Yeah. So France. Now, we know France as a bit more authoritarian and very much more secular than we are, than many countries are. And they have exemplified this because they've become the first country in the world to explicitly include the right to abortion in its constitution.
Mm. Well, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm. I mean,
we don't have a constitution in this country that embodies our rights, which is a bit of a problem at the moment because the government is certainly trying to limit all kinds of freedoms that we've taken for granted.
Yeah.
So it's
well,
nice to see that.
We don't have a written constitution in the form of one document, but we do have a custom and practice set of principles and values that we adhere to. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, but they have been heavily under threat recently.
Definitely.
I hope that, so yeah. I mean, I think there's an argument for having a written constitution which is entrenched in some way.
I would personally be against that, because the trouble is, once you freeze something in words, then it's difficult to change it, and I'm afraid change is endemic. We do need to be flexible. Yeah,
well, yeah, I think that may be true. There's definitely a debate to be had. I mean, we are one of the very few countries in the world that don't have a constitution that is in any sense entrenched. Yes,
indeed, we are. But you can see the problems of having such a concrete document that occurs in America, where they
where everybody can wander around carrying lethal weapons.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's insane. That really is insane. And that really puts me off the States, that whole thing.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So it's long been possible in France to have an abortion, but this is the only country that has actually put it in their constitution. And amazingly, the constitution in France was only constructed in 1958.
Yeah, I think is it the Fourth Republic or the Fifth Republic or something? They've had since the revolution. They've had three or four or maybe five iterations of their republic, which is fair enough. I think that's what probably is needed. We live in an incredibly unreconstructed, antique political framework. We've got a House of Commons which is elected by first past the post.
Yes.
Instead of every other, pretty much, every other civilized country has PR, and they have a round, semicircular legislature, so that people they admit that there are gradations of opinion. Why can't we do that? Really obvious.
Not only that, not only is every other country in PR, but also all the other levels of elected government in this country have PR too. It's just the national election.
Well, the local authorities don't yet, sadly. And of course we have a House of Lords that's unelected, which is completely balmy. And then we've got all sorts of other antiquated things like the king is entitled to withhold his consent to a new bill.
Yes.
Before it go, we thought that his involvement, the monarch's involvement, was relatively formal because they always just sign off a bill once it's passed. But we didn't know that they withdraw their consent before it even went into Parliament. For God's sake.
Yes.
So we want that sort of finished straight away.
Yeah, there's so much needs.
And then there's the established church, with undue influence. We're talking about a tiny minority of active Anglicans now. There's probably fewer active Anglicans than there are Muslims.
Yes, definitely. Yes, yeah. There's so much needs to be improved and revised, but as a little bit of light-heartedness to end this show with, take a look at this. Take a look at this video.
هذا ابو الابن، شكرا جزيلا استاذ. هسه شوف انا اصرف ابو الابن. عندنا حليب لا اجيب سريع حليب. شوف هسه هذا شوف هذا حليب الابن شفتوه بعيونكم. ايوه هسه اشربها شفاء للفيروس الكبد. شوف اللهم صل على محمد. هذا البول شفتوا مباشر. بارك الله فيك تعبنا. السلام عليكم. شوف جلاس حليب البقر مع البول. بوش بارك الله. عفوا والله ما حد بشوف. خلطناه شفتوا بعيونكم. هسه اشربها يم الجمل. الشيخ صالح تعال يمي معي حتى انا موجود. انا احسن علاج وعافيتني هنا. بارك الله فيك مع الشيخ صالح. شوف هذا البول مع الحليب شفاء. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول البول ابن شفاء لكل الامراض خاصه الفيروس الكبد والمرض اسداد الكبد والمرض السرطان والالتهابات. شوف هسه اشربها انا صايم ولكن اشربها هذا السنه. شوف بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شوف بسم الله. هذا بول ابن وحليبه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تعال ابني شوي اللي جاي عاد اشوف. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So that's camel piss and milk, is it?
Warm camel piss, fresh, you know, straight from the camel. None of this stale camel piss.
I mean, I think Muhammad, peace be upon him, recommended this in, maybe was it in a hadith?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely right. The Prophet did it, and that's why this guy is showing that it's okay to do it, and he's demonstrating with his own digestive system. So there you go.
You know, it would be interesting to know whether there was even a scintilla of scientific evidence for the benefits of drinking piss of any sort, to be honest.
Well,
maybe there is. I mean, I don't know, but I would doubt it somehow. I mean, yes. I know that if you are in a desert and you've got nothing to drink, drinking your own piss will actually keep you going a bit longer.
Absolutely. Yes. But the key words here is if there's no water.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I thank heaven we're not that far back in our culture, eh? I know we've got a lot to improve here in the UK, but at least we don't drink the animal's piss. So
not to our knowledge, anyway. God knows what is in our drinking water sometimes.
maybe there's hope. Yeah, exactly. So, Guy, thank you very much once again.
Nice to chat, anyway, John. Yep. And,
yeah, absolutely.
I hope those comments, that discussion of the news is helpful to our viewers.
Indeed. Yeah, me too. So take the rest of the day off.
Thank you. I will. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Was the Pope appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carry-on drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys?